Tondal sees the flames of hell. Tondal sees the flames of heaven. The flame, the force connected. The pyre of fire is vertical. It spins like the great cyclone Scylla. See the past, see the present, see the future. It is all at once, right now, in the mind. Okay. Where do we start? Where do we last leave off? One word of advice before we begin. Engage with these sounds as you would a film. First, we gaze towards the sky, and then the earth. We gaze at the ant mount, at each individual ant working together, tethered in motion. And we gaze at the stretch of the stars as they cloy across the night sky, turning endlessly. Hear the universe in motion. Touch with your eyes the proximity of wet dirt. The center of the body touches the world with the center of the mind. The center of this body is a point of view. Find the vision, transform the world. Now turn the gaze to Canada, a northern hymn, student of film Stephen Broomer, echoes of brackage, daring and anger, tampering with footage from 8mm early days at York University in Toronto. Now to films of found footage, the old and the new, emancipating effect through participation with the technology at hand. The alchemist unveils a transformation. The secrets of movement layered like palimpsest. Cornell, Hofsys, Mencken. Gaze east, but don't move. Towards Italy. We've heard this story from the earth to the stars. Again, where's the guide? The Montuan, Algieri, or another brackage Broomer? The body in stasis, the mind descends down, 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 down towards Malbauge. The prime crimes are paid for in hell. Chambers of recompense structured for mass, unable to see beyond their own void. A personal void. Hell is a full-colored obsession. But first, was it him? Yes, Tondal the Knight, who also left body as spirit, parsing spaces of suffering where there is no light. The reveal of light gives life. Turn towards the camera. Its absence, feel no more. With visions of Tondal, Hieronymus Bosch, palettes of orange and pockets of yellow, pick the vision of hell that we want. Modern times for medieval dreams, the forces we feel become smooth and rational, sequential with logic, the force falls apart. But Hieronymus maintained a total space by painting panels and totaling space simultaneous. Tondal looks inside and outside becomes the dream. Palettes of yellow and pockets of orange. But back to Tondal himself in Getty Illuminated. Who is our guide? Broomer, Bosch, Brackage, Bruce? Is it Tondal himself? We turn our gaze back to Italy. It is 1911. Attempting serious art, electricity again hits the scene. The forces of the medieval again ever present. In time intersecting metaphysical space, flames for hell, flames for hella. Scylla. We can see ourselves again between abstraction and representation. We turn our gaze back to Italy. It is 1911. It is 1300. It is 2018. Bertolini, Ligoro, and Padovan on film appear. In the laurels is Dante. It is 1475. It is 1479. It is 2018. Now in Canada, now to found footage. Dante to Tondal, time all at once. Make it new, make it old. Turn back and see forward, past, present, and future. Palettes of red, pockets of pink. The celluloid disintegrates, anticipating the digital, but still, it is all at once. Remember the force electric, the one flattened, the one visualized, the one that disappeared under the weight of the modern page. Here it returns in the wheel of the cinema, in the frame of return, page, celluloid, digital. We are learning to spell again. Broomer, Tondal, Brackage, Dante. The star is an ant, the phrase electric, weight underneath the eye, the ear, the hand, a point of view as celluloid melts. Dante becomes Tondal, who is actually Broomer. The medieval surrounded by a universe, understood, understanding the forces in it, understanding positions of those forces working. The modern instead, surrounded by force not understood. The body electric, the body invisible and intersubjective, opposed by the forces of electricity. Not understood. The universe has become much more complex and much more alien. The sense of the world, the mental and emotional sense of the world has vanished. not in the same position as we are, not at the mercy of forces, no control, no comprehension. The modern, by contrast, is helpless before these invisible forces. To Italian film, to Broomer, reframe the first passage in phrase electric. It is a Pyrrhic victory to see the vision as unique. It is simultaneously forever. We must learn the infinite language.
Hello, this is Broomer. I am a filmmaker from Canada. Tonight you will be watching my film, Tondal's Vision, finished in 2018. The film is a kind of an adaptation of a medieval fable called the Visio Nugdala's Tondal's Vision, which I came to know through the account given in Eileen Gardner's Visions Before Dante. Tondal's Vision anticipates the Divine Comedy. It is the story of a knight who, living to excess, finds himself in a state of being trapped in between life and the afterlife. Through his excess, his soul has quit his body, and it's gone on this tour of that in-between purgatory, led through this series of scenes and episodes by an angel who seems to get him lost in the course of his journeying. Well, I first came to this through Eileen Gardner's book. The story of Tondal's Vision was something that I would also encounter through a painting credited at times to Hieronymus Bosch. I don't know that it's authentic. It seems kind of apocryphal, that, like Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights, envisions a kind of hellscape. And also through the verified and authentic illuminations of Simon Marmion, 14th century illuminations that were reproduced in a really beautiful edition, and which I used to develop these colors. The film itself, in acting, as I said earlier, a kind of adaptation, is adapted both from the Visio Nugdalis and from Giuseppe De Ligeiro's film of Dante's Inferno, made in 1911. The first feature film made in Italy, one of the first feature films ever made. A film that operates entirely in these prosceniums in which Dante is led by Virgil through the Inferno to encounter spiritual figures, his peers, denigrators, and oppressors, and all of the damned through history. Tondal's Vision presents a kind of a strange personhood for the character that would become, in Dante's interpretation, Virgil. For in Tondal's Vision, this angel I've always interpreted, I certainly am taking that interpretation here, is a kind of a fool. So too is Tondal, so too are we all. And the fact that this angel gets him lost, for me, works within these themes of mentorship, the foolhood of mentorship. I made this film at a time when my own fortunes were turning badly. I had finished a PhD a few years earlier. I had written a number of books, but I was scraping by, taking whatever work I could find, and struggling very hard to try to find some kind of permanent, ongoing work. And so for me, there was this act of personal projection into the work of being a person whose soul was quitting his body, being misled through many years of mentorship from many persons who, angels though they were, and through their best intentions had led me down the same fool paths that they themselves had been led down. The great circuit of damnation that is the world of the arts, passion and pain and suffering pours out of us, so we'd better put a canvas or a movie camera or a musical instrument in our way. So that's one side of this, but there's a more material, formal side of it that I want to talk a little bit about. This is a film that flickers and flashes with a mixture of photochemical disruption and abstraction, and colors that are affected by two means. One is by painting on the film directly, and I was using kind of from the bottle glass paints, and digital tinting, which everything has gone through, including the paint. The film, like the figures in it, exists in this in-between, that this state between the motion picture film, the physical film strip, which has been eaten away by corrosive chemistry, and the clean digital synthetic artificial colors, which even there are sourced from the hard wrought colors of the Marmion illuminations. To this I add one more thematic overlay. What interested me about De Ligeiro's film and about his work in general was his dedication to the idea of advancing the cause of a common culture in a world still struggling into literacy, into widespread literacy. He wanted to keep the great works of civilization in circulation by making film translations of them. This is why he makes The Inferno. This is why a few years earlier, I think, he made The Odyssey, a film of the Odyssey, the first film of the Odyssey. De Ligeiro's devotion to a common culture, to mass literacy, is something that I can both admire and reject as a person living through the vacuum aftermath of modernism. I think that we all speak in broken tongues and look with broken eyes, and I don't see a return to a common culture. But I'm fascinated by this impulse, this extraordinarily benevolent impulse to spread literacy. And I can't help, in my puckish way, to go in and distort and disrupt the linear journey that De Ligeiro has laid out, cutting off pathways for the poet knight, Dante Tondel. Thank you very much for your kind attention to this film. I hope that I haven't said too much. And thank you to Tyler and the whole group for the invitation.